Today I will be covering everything you need to know about the Lydian mode. So without further ado, let's get into it. As with all modes, there are two ways of constructing it. You can either start by playing a major scale, but starting on another note. So for example, we would play C major, but starting on F. Or there is another approach which I consider much better, which would be to just play, in this case, a major scale and modify it until we arrive at our desired mode. So in this case, what we would have to do is raise the fourth to get the sharp fourth or sharp 11, it's the same thing, and we get the same Lydian mode. So there are a few important ideas to determine how we use the Lydian mode in our improvisations or compositions. First thing to consider is that we actually add a tritone to the first chord. I always say that the tritone is the interval of tension, of dissonance. For example, if we're in C major, this is the tritone of G major, which is the dominant of C major. The way to get tension and release in C major would be to play tritone and resolve. But here, by adding the sharp fourth, what we do is we add a tritone to the first chord. So we get tension, but in the first chord. Or to be more precise, to an extended version of the first chord, which we will be looking at later on. The interesting idea is that when we raise the fourth, we lose the natural tritone we used to have. So we now have this. It doesn't carry the same dissonance, and you can't really resolve in the same way. So if I show you, if you're playing in C major, however, if you're improvising in the Lydian, you can't have that resolution. And this difference is subtle, but it's the difference between major and Lydian. It is why Lydian mode doesn't sound classical. So the next important idea is that the Lydian mode is the brightest of them all. This is an interesting concept which I will try to delve deeper into at another point. But you can take this literally. When I say that the Lydian mode is bright, when you're trying to improvise, you should always have an image on your mind. And in this case, if your image is bright, if your image is happy, the Lydian mode is probably the best way to go. Although, it can even be a bit exaggerated. This is why in classical music, happy music is usually played in the Ionian mode. Scales and chords are actually really related. When you play in a new scale, you get a new chord. And for each interesting jazzy chord you have, there are, well, sometimes various scales you can play along with it. So in this case, the chord we get, the Lydian sounding chord, will be the major 7 sharp 11 chord. This sounds like this. Of course, played like this chord sounds very dissonant and it's got a lot of density. You could space it out and you will see that this gives a less overwhelming feeling. We also have the major second chord over the major first chord. In C Lydian, this would be D over C. Now, of course, if you don't want to go this far, you can just say that you get the major second chord, which is already quite interesting in your repertoire. In fact, another way I like to think about this chord is by just playing the root note and the major on top of it. I've already touched upon this, but the feel of Lydian is usually happy or even film-like. You will usually see this mode used in Hollywood. For example, the famous song Maria from West Side Story uses this mode. However, on the other side of the spectrum, we also get a modern jazz feel, because this gives it a major sound while not sounding classical. Why? Well, as I just said earlier, that you don't have the same tritone, which allows for that cadence, which is so common in classical music. Let's now get into some of the more advanced topics. I'm going to be covering the Mixolydian sharp 11 scale. This combines the Mixolydian mode and the Lydian mode in order to get something which is full of tension and is perfect for playing dominant chords. Let's have a look at how this would sound. This is the scale used in the intro of The Simpsons. So now that we've seen the theory, how would we put this into practice? Here are some very basic tips. You should always highlight the special note. This is the case in every single mode. Not why are you playing in this mode. Don't be afraid of dissonance and of block chords. These are very useful while playing in the Lydian mode. It is difficult to get used to because it's more of an advanced concept, but it will make your improvisation stand out. And last of all, use passing notes. I'm going to show you an example of this. In fact, there is also the concept of the bebop scale, which has 8 notes instead of 7. Here you would play. So as you can see, it's a mixture between the major scale and the Lydian mode. And now to finish this video, let's look at how we can build chord progressions using the Lydian mode. First thing is we can use modal interchange. This is because purely Lydian may not be the effect that you're looking for. This is because usually you want to mix in different emotions, and by using only Lydian, your music will probably sound too happy for what you're looking for. In more specific terms, what you can do is you can turn major chords into major sharp 11s. And of course, you can also use the tritone to modulate to the fifth. What do I mean by this? Well, if you notice, we have C and F sharp, which is the tritone that we would use in G major. So you can start playing in C Lydian and change to G major whenever you want, because actually they include the same notes. We've left an interesting chord progression that you can play around with if you want to get used to this mode. Of course, if you enjoyed this video, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. See you next time.